A môžeme začať tým prvým spojením, našou prvou hostkou, ktorá hovorí, že vo všetkých našich projektoch sa vždy vyskytuje stavebný experiment, hoci nikdy nie je primárnym cieľom. Najcitlivejšou premennou je ticho. Prirodzený stav, keď už nepotrebujete vnímať všetku tú námahu a úsilie. To sú slová talianskej umelkyne Francesky Torzo, pôsobí v Janove, ovplyvnilo ju výrazne ale štúdium vo Švajčiarsku. Vlastné štúdio založila v roku 2008 a tvorí ho iba malá medzinárodná skupina mladých architektov a stážujúcich študentov. Dôležitá je pre ňu pedagogická činnosť. V roku 2018 excelovala na 16. ročníku Bienále architektúry v Benátkach a k najnovším trofejám patrí Moira Jamil Prize, určená významným ženám architektúre. K takým ženám určite Francesca patrí. Francesca, good evening. Are you with us? Dobrý večer.
Dobrý večer. I just learned this evening.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, and we are looking forward to hear your presentation. How are you doing today, Francesca?
It is a special day, I think, and that would have been my thank you for inviting me to gather with introduction to the talk. And I listened to your introduction, and I don't know the language, so I could appreciate the sound. It's a very musical language, beautiful. And the meeting with Tatiana is almost antique now, because we have been weaving this appointment since the summer past, so very long. We have been awaiting this moment, and I cannot be there physically, even if I wished. And it is a special presentation for me this evening, because also, well, for respect towards Tatiana, Alexandra, the organization, and also for the peculiarity of the day. Today it's the day when almost all Europe decided for a kind of lockdown. We are witnessing this critical pandemic spread, and it's also a day where we witnessed a fierce attack in Nice. So I think it matters more than ever to stand for culture, tolerance, difference, and respect. And that can be developed through exchanging ideas. And that is why I chose the title. Memory is imagination. I don't know if you hear me good.
We hear you perfect, and thank you for these words, these nice words. Thank you for joining us online. And vy, ktorí nás sledujete, využite tú možnosť pýtať sa Francesky v priebehu jej prezentácie na našich sociálnych sieťach. And we could start, Francesca. Now we are listening your presentation.
Thank you. So, I will share my screen, and you know that I am particularly emotional today for the singularity of the day. Can you kindly confirm if you see good and hear good? Yes. Okay. I chose this title, Memory is Imagination, because it is a moment where we are all witnessing and living uncertainty, which is the most difficult state of things to face, because we are used to daily patterns in a way, and we also live out of projections of life. But humanity has a very long life and history, and we may find help in who lived before us. This memory is imagination is a quote from Homer, so long time ago. And he was saying that memory is the mother of all muses, because exactly remembering, we may imagine. Therefore, we always have the ability to invent a future if we are able to remember what was lived by others different from us or with affinities with us. We are individuals, but we are always together with other people. This is a collage I made of photos I took at the Kolbe Museum in Berlin of a dancer and of some prominent people of the beginning of the 20th century. The presentation is very dense and it is articulated among several projects crossing scales because there are going to be furniture, there are going to be small holiday houses, a house of gallery which is almost 6,000 square meters, a very tiny bamboo pavilion in China. But what I wanted to share with you is that from my point of view, there is a reality embracing everything and all times. This reality is like a landscape, a theater play of our life. The last 1 year and a half, I have been working on a project for Maniera, which is a gallery which produces limited editions of furniture based in Brussels. And they asked me to make a proposition, and I proposed several pieces of furniture. This is the first sketch I made for Ottomano, which is a sofa. And I like imagining a project of architecture. I started reflecting on what was my interpretation of the cultural subject of a sofa. And I wished a sofa which could be remembering the ease and comfort of the Arabic culture settings, scenes, but how they were dreamed by the traveling Englishmen in North Africa or Morocco, or how they were painted by Mariano Fortuny in a hidden palace in the island of Venice. And I also wanted it to be practical and rational. So there is a very sharp, dry construction of wood with no screws, where all the wooden elements are inserted into a base of wood with no screws, like you may place a forcola in a boat of Venice. And on this structure simply are hanging the pillows. And the pillows, this mass that you may see like a landscape, a panorama of softness and color, is made of individuals. We have a series of 6, then 3, and then 1, where you lay. It is complex to search for the measure, therefore I always trace reference lines, which is referring to, of course, what we truly were calling the straight lines and the compass, so the eutigrammi and the circini, which were suggesting possible compositions and geographies of rigor and harmony. Then there is also color. There is not only one approach to things, because we live among living things. Materials are alive, like this velvet silk. And velvet silk is a special material because the fibers are oriented, so when you pass your fingers, you may draw. But also you may see the flow of clouds or just a breeze of a light or shadow of a passing being. It is rich, opulent, and is the part of representation. Is a sofa just a sofa? It is a place where to be comfortable, things should function. But it is also a representation of a scene of life, and it recalls the theater when prominent people were discussing key marriages or business in the divan from Arabic culture. It is so different if we may interpret in our daily living room. It is a roundabout. I like buildings, also furniture, live together nearby something. I believe that there is not a parametric toolkit or rule or comfort that may reassure you that you may tune the consonant story and history for a place. I think that buildings are like cities, are like objects, are like even trees, live of the relations among each other. We are in Sorano. It is a village, a medieval village in Tuscany, and then it grew during the Renaissance time until the 19th century, not really further. And all the village grew carving the tufa hill, carving out blocks to build a house on top. So there is a kind of continuity of material, but the expression is different because the blocks are squared and the tufa hill is soft, unlike the forests around, a wide landscape. Here, if you see my arrow, there is a tiny holiday house I built, which is a new construction. Here you see the plan of the village. There is the river Lente surrounding the Tufa hill, and then this labyrinthian, very dense structure of medieval houses. And the extension is really very tiny. It's like 75 square meters, in part carved into the rock. It was an existing cave, very difficult to consolidate. And then a chain of rooms overlooking the river. We are almost 30 meters high above the river. What I was interested in was to weave a dialogue and search for these permanencies, this cultural structure that may allow me to belong to the others, being an individual with a different nature, because all languages and expressions change from time to time, sometimes a mixture of things because of change of availability of means, material and technique, or also because change of cultural, political, economical agreement of communities. These are photos on the left and on the right taken of existing palaces on the border of the village overlooking the river, while in the center, these are the historical walls of Viterbo, which is very nearby. It's very, very close to Lazio, which is a region of Rome. I wish to be with dignity, decor, because I was on the historical walls as well. It was a very tiny, humble plot. And I wish then to have an echo of something close, but not exactly in that place. Again, memory is imagination, and it's not a geographical precise spot. The mind travels through geographies and times. So I wanted to build a small construction in squared blocks with no mortar, so that it may be assonant to the other noble constructions. And I wish to have aligned joints for the tufa construction to recall this Viterbo antique boundaries of the city. But inside, to offer something different. Inside, it is a promenade through. How to do it? Since the wall was very thin, only 250 millimeters, it was needed to make an experimental construction of dry stone. This is the series, the atlas of the steel pillars, which are placed at the corner, as you see here, of each room. So you have fixed at the bottom, then they are chained with a tensor, with a full section, round 10 millimeter. Then it is built, of course, the masonry in between, and are placed the windows, all without mortar, apart 1 millimeter to avoid the punctual loads and transform into diffuse load. And then above, it is placed a lacunar ceiling in metal to give stability in case of schisma. And this just to achieve a facade which would be with aligned joints, which is no sense structurally. In fact, it was a Viterbo were 6 meters deep walls. And on the other side, it becomes a disaligned joint facade. Those are elevations of a wall which is double face, as you see, and may understand better later. Pillars, lacunar ceiling, all the atlas of the blocks, and then the double face facade. To be decent, elegant in sign of respect, but tiny. Every time things to become real need search, taking a risk. It also takes to share a vision with an understanding of habits, puzzleness, as you see, of the workers here with all those numbered pieces, and work together. It is a collaboration. And when you achieve, then people are simply happy. Different steps of the building site. It was working before, it's not working now, so I'm going here. As you see, it is a wild part of Tuscany, and the house is silent. Inside it's a different world. The rooms are, some of them, so small that you can place a chair, but how do you define small? How do you define big? Nothing is small on its own, or big on its own. May we recall Bruegel paintings when there are those walks on top of the hills, on very tiny bridges, but it is the immense. When you're here in these tiny rooms, you stand and don't see the sky. You're protected by a faraway, distant curtain of trees which change with the clouds and the move of the sun. But you are in an interior which has a kind of textile tent protected atmosphere. Also tiny, but you don't feel tiny because it is really like a terrace. And the thresholds, openings among a space and the other are so nearby, so close, that you feel in the outdoor, within the indoor. How does our mind work? I observe that people's mind lives of hungriness. You need distraction and concentration at your own pace, at your own space. Exhibiting and retrieving. This is a wonderful photograph from the, I think it is from the 57, sorry. 54 must be, maybe I'm not sure, by Margaret. And it is the photograph of a man in kimono. And when I was asked by the Belgian Gallery Maniera to work with this texture of Z33 facade, I thought I would have liked to do something different and imagine a dress, a kimono. Why? Because I wanted to reflect on representation. I started taking measures of my body. I drew. It was the first dress I drew myself. And then I was cutting with an old linen blanket, bed linen from my grandmother, the first prototype. You see me wearing it here. Then I went to adjust with a little tiny pants, which is on the side, in order to let the cloth accompany the body. And then just a high belt to hint the movement. Why was I interested in representation? Everything in the world represents itself. Fishes, birds, buildings, people. This representing is a way to express an identity which is something moving and non-fixed. We have been studying fishes and birds exactly to understand how to weave harmony within everything that was so differentiated and irregular. There are birds that have a logic which is of opening fans and follow horizons of different feathers, while fishes introduce the exception, which is that they respect, let's say, the unity of a single element, and then they resize it and slightly shift it so that their skin textile mantle can be continuous, therefore harmonious. Here we see the back of the kimono, here we see the front. Very irregular, though the painting, the orning and representing of the texture, the ornament, is continuous. We printed on crêpe de Chine with inkjet and finissage. And then we dress it. There are different versions. Representations are not a brand new discourse, I think, neither with buildings. They always, from what I have been studying so far, but more I study, more I feel ignorant, is that representations always recall other cultures, other times, ideas, but for the fact that they are recombined, they acquire new meaning, and therefore they become alive for people. The facade of Z33 may in fact recall an apse articulatum from Roman time, but it is not. It may even recall a textile, but it is not. It is a facade made in 2019, precisely. We are in Hasselt, which is the capital of Limburg. It is not a big city, 70,000 inhabitants, though it is prominent for cultural role and also with a strategic position in Europe, because in 1 hour you may be in Paris, Brussels, you are easily in Germany, so quite strategic. You may see here in the left plan the print of the watercourse, and you see that is defining the medieval core of the town, which is meanderic. So it expresses literally the movement of the earth in time. It is about sand and water, so it moves meanderly. So there are a lot of passages in this city, and there is a significant, you may see here, this triangle in the left map and made bigger in this right side map is the Beguinage, which is a urban type typical from Belgium and Holland, which was a sort of city within the city from middle time until the 18th century, approximately, which consisted of a built introvert border of houses overlooking gardens and orchards. Very often in the center or the side, a church which was representing the religious but also political power protecting and legitimating the existence of this city, which was mostly a city of women, which were at the border of societies and could survive in exchange of services with the societies. So teaching, dyeing, textiles, making medicines. So Hasselt, with this meander medieval structure, is very dense, it is sinuous, but it also frequently offers discoveries of narrowing moments of shadow within this passage and opening towards gardens or courtyards or swinging between buildings, entering one building to discover then another building again. In fact, we started to make a survey of all floors of the site, in and around, to collect knowledge. What does it mean? What do you need to measure every single stone? Because even a stone speaks about a city. Then we started tracing drafts of how we imagine the outer space within our building. Thresholds of sidewalks, patios, trees, shadow, folding. We even drew a proposal for the whole pedestrian street that is planned to be renewed, even if we were not part of that commission. It was for an understanding where for us were equally important the natural shadows and the artificial lights. The borders or thresholds, even only on the horizontal level of floors and different pavement of the sidewalk and of the space, were to just wander around, trees and water. The same moment, period, we were making survey with Spolvero in graphite of the existing buildings. This is the existing building we are asked to extend, Vleugel 58, which means Vleugel from 1958, which allowed us to tune a size for the brick. Is it aesthetic or graphic? No, it is a search for measure, a grain. Cities don't have only one scale, but it is too much a bird view site to see domestic scale, representative scale of public buildings or of churches. No, even the materials. So if you're going to be an extension of a building, or if you're just going to stand nearby, why would you not ask yourself, what is my measure, my rhythm? We tested the relation with the mortar, and then we made for the competition a textile which would allow the committee of the jury to live as real this textile wall. It was from the competition, considering all technical and material structure, and to consider rooms as individuals together with others. All the extension building was meant to be an ensemble of rooms which could live exclusively of natural light and shadow that go along together. It is like Goethe speaks of colors with the beautiful expression lumen opacatum, a dimmed light or enlightened shadow. And these are the plans, and very relevant to me is this central drawing where in dark are spotted the out facade corners, while lighter are the inner corners. It is important because it was a project of rooms with openings where you would move between indoor and outdoor, an exterior and interior landscape, but we could phrase it as within and without because they're all one landscape, interwoven, entwined by thresholds. As we were saying before, speaking about the sofa, divan, ottomano, about the house in Tuscany, the diapason and tuning with the context, the cultural context, seeking for these permanencies, was to insert the extension building that you see in the model in ceramic on the left side, just reconfirming the built border, the continuity of it. Therefore, introducing a gentle fold to accompany the work on the city and a gentle fold to enhance a niche for the inner garden. Silent. We introduced courtyards, gardens. Non-dissimilar, it was the attitude in the interior, so simply a building of rooms, a brick building. You see here around, Pompeii in red, it is the existing building from 1958. It was a museum. In dark brown, the Beguinage houses from 18th century. In ochre, it is the gin factory, now museum of gin. And then in deep lead gray, we have the housing for the Ellery from the 50s, and in light gray, the extension. Mosaic, a city within the city. But it was important culturally, as it is a house for art, that as the existing building was a kind of ideal structure for the white cube, that assumed the context to exhibit art as a kind of dispositive which would be neutral, and art would make the scene and storytelling, we transformed the space. We thought, recalling the bet between Harald Zeman and Jan Goethe, that we may introduce a different kind of set so that the two buildings, the two wings making one building, would offer a wider set of possibilities for the curators and the artists. So the extension building is made of rooms, but rooms that you can name. They recall you something. You have Les Lacs, the Allée, Grand Chambre, Petit Chambre, but outside it's silent. So you see, it's very abstract, antique, and surprisingly modern. No glass, no reflection, because glass is non-transparent, just shadow, a leaf or two that you may see moving, and the sound of water. It is just what's happening there from 18th century. Beguinage houses close themselves outdoor, but they open towards interior, with a filigree of windows that, thanks to the sequencing of walls, would suggest and propose enfilade. What defines an enfilade? Does an enfilade need to be an interior enfilade of palazzo? Not necessarily. We can find it everywhere. That is how I believe I observe, and I'm not yet understanding fully how it works. The mind of people lives of associations, because we collect fragments and we compose them in our mind with a sense of belonging, of things which may be very distant. But when can we live that? When we can live it in real. To make things real to people, we do need to support a real scene, physical scene, so that architect can disappear. Even the name architecture may disappear, and there is a living built space that it is at disposal of the unknown people, and it is collecting and rephrasing a storytelling, a song from other times or places, and even that specific one. When you do not see the effort, but you can experience in this case, it was the belonging to the context, which was all a context of brick buildings, but it had to be new and different, so it needed a sharpness, and it is sharpness, the tool of our present time, because we have technique, machines, way of producing that drives us towards a very sharp precision, though to be sensual with water elements. Facade toward the street top, tuning with the existing one. Facade towards the garden. Is it a copy? Not one measure is matching. There is a belonging. In the section, you see that the new extension building confirms the two levels for the public of the existing building from 1958. But then there is, in between, a floor of the offices, which is of the staff. Quickly, the plans. So you see here the entrance, all the you have here, you may connect to existing building and have a promenade of exhibiting. You can go on the other side. At the top floor, bigger spaces, so also assonant with existing building. And in between, the staff space, which is connecting everything. We're going now to walk through. We are in the alley, which is echoing in a way the walk through the medieval town. In the fold, in the shifted fold of the walls, not only, also with a very delicate slope. So you slightly, unnoticing, you rise and you reach the vestibule of the public staircases, where two pillars invite you, maybe to the left, maybe to the right, but the space is protected. You turn and you encounter a high tower, which has a lacunar ceiling where natural light is combined with artificial light. Then you start to walk around. We had seen the outdoor context, the garden, when we entered the building. And now we are in interior, but we see the exterior through light. There is wind in Belgium. Clouds move fast, and so they come and they bring either a shadow, either they bring a blow of pinkish lilac on the walls of this grand chambre. You turn around. It's really getting colored. You walk around with the ceiling coming low, 3.50 meters. Different from outside, no. We are in the offices. We climb above the staircase, but even the staircases echo the existing building handrail. We walk at the upper floor of the exhibiting space in the gallery, where we have this double view toward the existing building on the left, and in the sequencing of trompe-l'œil of balcony, interior patio, and a garden beyond. But when we turn, we go further, we are in the widest room. It is 19 by 19 approximately, and there is where you meet again the existing context, and you may rest. Most of visitors told me that the building is perceived much bigger, much bigger than you would imagine from the outdoor. But it is not so big. It is that our mind feels time in relation to experience. And so when you're free to walk around without making the same parcours, then you gain time. What allows this perception of depth and sequencing are precisely this concatenation of depths through thresholds, where it is crucial, the detail. The detail makes the opening slender, so that outdoor, alike the indoor, this opening is more abstract, becomes aligned so that you may come closer, as if the air of the other space and the air where you are may touch each other. You see again how rapidly it may color the light, the spaces, and the rain as well. Things are made with people. When we started the building site, it was important for me to always keep in mind what we promised to our clients, but as it is a public building, also to the unknown. So I brought and hung in the office of the builder the central images, which were photos of a model 1 to 10. Let's remind what we have to achieve. And then we went on, always keeping in mind that through all negotiations we're going through, we had to keep a promise. And the promise was that of simplicity, but care, so that the experience would not be deceptive. The team was not big. We have Michael and Christoph, the two project leaders, because I asked for two in the building site. Then there were a team of 6 making all the row construction. Then other 2 making the finishing, other 4 another type of finishing. And then we had 4 people making all the facade. Few people, you need to do things. We started from the brick, indeed, and from the thresholds, because those were our main tools to tune a dialogue. But then it had to be real. So we started the folding towards the street, the folding towards the interior garden. And that because the joint was changed, the piece was changing. We checked how to produce it. Could it be extruded? No, because the machine could explode. Could we make it smaller? Not so easy. Could we achieve the colors? Well, we made 103 types of bricks. We searched for the color, defining kind of polyphonies per building through the use of Muses chart, which is used by geologists and archaeologists, in order to find our belonging. Then with a company which is named Patterson, we made tries of different mixture of clay, where there is equal number, like 62, 62, 62, same mixture of clay, but changes the temperature of baking. We chose for 21, a lilac wine. Tests for the surface, for the edges, checking the tolerances, because this masonry wall, because it's load bearing, and these are bricks, each one weighing almost 1 kilo, had tolerance 3 millimeter, which is absurd. In the meanwhile, I was invited to Biennale of Venice. Great honor, because it was such a collection of immense professionals. And it was very difficult because I was asked to exhibit a building which was under construction. So I asked myself, how can we show anything? So we made a kind of constellation made of tables as displays and brick sculptures. The brick sculptures were our one-to-one test if we could build a facade. So we started and we brought them to the Biennale. We also made the one that we call the Loom Model, which is a woven model of 42 or 43 kilometers of cotton wire, where we wanted to share the building in a way that people could understand it. So looking through it, a labyrinthian mosaic of rooms. And therefore, to share something with people, you do not need to be literal, didascalic, making footnotes. You need to make it alive in some way. The facade towards the street and towards the garden. It was a very big struggle. We have been studying details so that this experimental facade could be a solid construction with no dilatation joints, but able to sound round, full, if a kid would throw a ball on it. So do not betray experience. For that reason, we can sum it up as a reinforced brick facade, like ferrocemento, ferromattone, so iron brick. Here you see the various steps of the building site, and all of these are highly crucial, but I'm going to move on. Today, the building doesn't show all this effort and adventure, joy and suffering that we share with all the team for many years. It is inhabited by plants, by water, and I am that fortunate that I receive messages from citizens that I don't know, or visitors, and even from workers, painters, or carpenters that go there with their family and give me a sign. Why do we do this job? Out of curiosity, I think, on human life, out of respect for human life. L'Arca is the name of a chair for Maniera, and the wish was to have a delicate chair on 3 legs so that it would give you ease of movement, so that you could be free to move rigidly if you wanted, loose if you wanted, but that anyhow you would have a horizon of the back which would present and dignify your presence of your torso. We've been struggling to find the geometry which would be able to host the body and that unnecessary fundamental ease of air, the gift, and the edge of stability so it would not flip. We had been studying how we could weave, trying to learn from fish chests, from Japanese chests, from tonne chairs, so from traditional knowledge, how we could combine this centric structure in a whole so it could be quiet and not reveal exceptions. We've been discussing a lot how to build the construction so it would not reveal a point of metal that would displease and bring distant your finger while touching, but that you could distractly caress each part of it. So we cut the wood, or the carpenter cut the wood like it was made, making the wheels of old cars or of the boats. It cantilevers, but it stands solidly, and it is almost lighter than superleggera. We are still trying to improve that. Here you see the structure, which is all fixed, and here you see the chair with the weaving. So when in time, sometime, it will be damaged, so you need to redo it, you just ship the frame with the weaving. So it is easy. This memory of imagination, so that you are looking the chair and maybe recalling a mandolino, a musical instrument, even if the mandolino is a full surface of wood, but you keep in mind maybe that form comes back with legends and myths. We are kind of collectors, travelers in our daily life. In Yangshuo, we were asked to build a library pavilion for children, but also a place that may welcome VIPs visiting or having residency at a highly refined, elegant hotel nearby, named the Sugar Factory, and in the setting which is in a bamboo forest along the river Yangshu. We thought to make a belvedere to overlook the river above the bamboo, but meant as a place where you would gather. Food, drinking, gathering is always a place where there is cultural exchange, when there is conversation. And with conversation is always also some playfulness. This is the context, which is like a fairy tale, all made by those incredible mountains surrounded by the meanders of the river. In golden, there are yellow golden, there are the bamboos. I needed to draw the landscape, to listen. Many times there is a resonance of what happens in the landscape, in topography, in geology, in the natural disposition and growth of plants, and in buildings. I'm talking about how buildings, cities, villages, with no name, no author architecture also, were built through centuries and millennia. This listening that Laws called culture. I needed to draw to understand what is the space in between the mountains, what is the space in between the waters. what is the space in between spaces. And the proposal was a roundabout oriented in all direction of a bamboo construction, and there in the center just a staircase to reach the view above the bamboos. The plan of the model, but this was important. So it is a pavilion, it is a building, it's not a forest. But there is a familiarity in the shadows. What does it mean? That the light is intermittent, alike it happens with the light passing through the poles and leaves of the bamboo. But this is a building where you walk around and you get disoriented, but it is the turn of the sun orienting you. So it is a solar machine as well. This was a first study, but then we were informed that there are floods. And so we had to implement a floor in concrete, which is going to be pigmented concrete. It's a cryptoportico where children may play all the time. Then you enter, you reach the upper floor where there is really the library, where you may sit and have a storytelling to children, or you may have an event in between the indoor and also all the surrounding terrace. You rise. Here the section where you see that the concrete is a structure, including the staircase. All the around is bamboo structure and wood. We are now preparing the prototypes since a while, and of course it's complicated with this time, with this pandemic all around, like with everybody, but limits, I think, give us the chance to clarify and reduce the unnecessary, and so find easier way or less effort ways to achieve common goals. First pillar, but how is the construction? It's load bearing. So bamboo interwoven with no cut of fibers, but it is like a textile. We made a first test 1-to-1 to just check the principle. Of course, it is abstract, but this is what we aimed for. A screen, a textile, so that, alike with the context, which is of the mountains, you would have those shades on screens, like it works in that landscape theater in real. And this is the company which is going to make the prototype and also the construction concerning the bamboo. You see, it's a family company. We are in the middle of the fields of Yangshuo, so totally different profile of builders. Capretta was the traditional table of rural societies in Tuscany. It has crossed legs for stability, but it also had some benefit. You do not hit your legs. And that was the reference for this table for Maniera, where I wish you could always add a chair for a guest arriving unexpected, to have this sense of generosity and hospitality within a table, not too big, but also finished in a way that it could be mysterious like a sky, or a lake reflecting a night sky. Capretta, very simple. It is finished with ultra gloss lacquer, alike the elements of the piano. You can fold it when you're going to transport, but it is meant that you can always have looseness of movement around. The point of conclusion of this storytelling is that indeed there is an objective reality surrounding us that none of us will ever know what it is. And even physics have are trying since millennia to have an understanding of this world, and they make the most crazy hypotheses to describe it, because most of it, the real objective, is a mystery. But what we know is our perception of reality. And the most moving and touching thing for me is that our perception hosts memory of other people which are not us. So everywhere we re-encounter imagination as well as memory. This is the table, but we can imagine much more. Thank you.
Francesca Torzo bola s nami na Dňoch architektúry a dizajnu. Francesca, thank you very much. It was amazing presentation. It was beautiful hour with your art, with your thoughts. Thank you very much.
Oh, I'm glad. I hope I did not bore you.
It was wonderful. It was very inspiring, and our viewers are touched, and there are some questions for you.
Yeah, so we have I will start with a comment that wrote Denisa. Thank you, Francesca. Your presentation and voiceover makes a great experience, really moving. And I totally agree with them. I would start with the questions that your way of thinking or creating is quite different, more philosophical from the other architects, in my opinion, and which makes you also stand out. I would like to know what inspired you to take this way of creating, or it came naturally? Or what was the point?
I'm very reflective, I'm very shy, and I am highly insecure, even if my team tells me I always look the opposite. And I think I am very simply curious of life. And I have an authentic respect for life. And that's the root of everything. So I would not name myself, I consider myself a technician. And probably I landed doing architecture accidentally because I had no plans. I was curious of so many things, to study so many things. But I am very thankful I accidentally happened to do this profession, because it is an incredible observatory on culture, and it also offers you the chance to question a lot yourself. It's a kind of daily practice of overcoming your own individuality for listening of others, which is much more interesting and alive. So I don't feel a philosopher at all, but I do love to read because there I find friends and I need music, so there are a lot of friends around. But architecture surrounds us continuously. And it's really the scene of our life. But man-made, since there is man, which is picturing dances, rituals, boats, which become houses like in Egypt, and then it's representing, we have all this non-explicable, because I have no idea how it starts and how that is possible, this cultural life, which is the essence of humanity, since we're not monkeys. And that is what is, I think, the privilege and also the wage of this profession, that we have responsibility to reflect, not to be superficial, but also doing it with lightness and joy, not headache or grief or excuse.
Yeah. Do you want to continue?
No.
Okay, because I cut your words. You said also that so architecture is all around us, and there's also a question: is there a physical space or specific location where you find peace, be the built space or any other environment where you feel peace?
Infinite. Infinite. I mean, it is adorable when you are in a very anonymous street and there is just rain dropping and the autumn leaves, or you may be in the courtyard of Pienza, or you could be in a train, anonymous train in Belgium. No, infinite, or the sea, or infinite. But I think it's about life. I think that people are sensors for, like seismographs, for non-authentic. And that's like, I think, the big dilemma of this present time. Like if you think people intuitively always know how to put themselves at comfort, no? Yeah. Like when you pick the seat when we used to go to the airport, or when you sit on the grass, or if you are choosing where to sit in a bar, people don't hesitate normally, no? They know.
Yeah.
But with architecture today, it seems the people can accept to live wherever, like the proposal, for example, the competition, the brief for housing, it is unlivable, but people stick to that. And that is not comprehensible to me. I think people should express their needs, even when unaware.
I read somewhere a few weeks ago, there was the author wrote that she feels the best in between, like in, for example, as you said, that in a train or in a air, for example, in how you called it, in a plane, that she's not at this specific destination. She's not where she was, but she's somewhere in between. And I also feel like it's something like I also agree with her that I think I feel the best when I'm somewhere to go, but not at the specific place.
For me, it's very different because I totally immerse myself where I am. And so I'm really in that place.
Yeah.
Where I am in that moment, in real, completely.
And we have maybe last question. How was it working for Zuntor? How would you describe the collaboration with him? I think a lot of people are very interested about it.
Well, premise is that I was a bad collaborator. I didn't I work better on my own. I think I was too concerned of fulfilling an expectation, and so I have a very bad judgment on myself as a collaborator. Even if I did my best, but I think I go much better on my own. It's at least it's better for me, more comfortable. Yeah. But the experience was incredibly precious. Incredibly precious because Zuntor had the quality that I rarely met in other people, to see people, So he was able to select young collaborators. At the time, we were so few, like 15 with the gardener and the secretary and the Putzfrau. So very, very few. And all these people shared an enthusiasm and a passion that everything could be possible. And that's extraordinary.
Yeah.
And the other thing is I think I really appreciated the disposal of dialogue, no? This exposing your thoughts to comment and dialogue, which is something that you also rarely find.
Thank you very much for all your answer.
Thank you, Alexandra. It was a pleasure to have you here, Francesca. I hope I can say we love your work and love your personality. We wishing you all the best. Greetings to Italy, and we wishing you pekný večer.
Thank you. And if I may, I really thank you because it's we share deep respect, with Tatiana and Alexandra. They have been very understanding and patient with me, and I'm grateful to have this talk today. I think you are doing something important.
We are thankful that you decided to finally make also a presentation like this, and hope we'll see you soon physically.
Me too.
Have a nice evening, and we will move with our program. Thank you very much again.
Francesca Torzo.
Good evening.
Good night.